And Baba did, this was written up very well by Phyllis Frederick in The Awakener, The Journey of the Heart. I was an editorial assistant of hers at that time, so I did try to give her as many notes as I could. For the most part, she certainly carried on The Awakener whole herself, without very much assistance. So Baba told us in 1952, and he had told us whenever he came to India, that it would be your love that will lure me back. So as I say, apparently our love was strong enough to lure him back in 1956. And the first stop was in New York. And I was very actively preparing at that time. So I tell you the truth, my whole focus was largely on New York and of course Myrtle Beach. And we did go. It was a journey that Baba had designated just who could travel with him at these spots where there were lovers awaiting him. And the first stop was New York, and it was at this what used to be called Idlewild, and today it is John F. Kennedy Airport. And I have a little story connected with that because I was working as a medical secretary at the time, and I just couldn't get away on time to meet the plane. It was called the Rainbow. Did you get there, Billy?
I went to the plane.
The Rainbow.
The field.
Yeah. And so I was working and I think I was agitated because I couldn't get away from my job on time to meet the plane. And however, prior to going to the Delmonico Hotel, which is where Baba was to have the reception on various days, he arrived on the 20th of July, and I had planned to there was the function of the reception committee. I did have certain responsibilities, was to help in somewhat in the decoration of the main room where people would come, where Ella and others were taking registrations down. And I had a picture of Baba that I wanted it framed very nicely. And there it was in the frame shop. And so right after work, I ran to the frame shop. And of course, that made me late. And of course, I missed meeting him at the airport, but I went straight to the hotel. And as I came in, I think it was Ella, someone said, "Bobby's been asking where you are," which of course, I just felt that somehow, I just couldn't just run away from work that day, but it made me feel that I had missed something. She said, "Anyway, just go right up." So I did. Baba had the hospitality chairman of this whole thing was Marion Florheim, but that was her function, to arrange for the quarters in the hotel and all. But she had a lot of assistance from Ivy Deuce, and also a lot of a whole little devoted group of people. And so there was Ivy Deuce with Baba and Marion and a few others. And Baba greeted me, without mentioning anything at all about not being at the airport. And I hung up my picture in the reception room. And the occasion was, of course, an opportunity at this time for people really to meet him and have an interview with him. Now in 1952, he came almost incognito because he didn't want any press or any kind of public announcements. This time was quite different. Ivy had engaged someone, Bernie Carvalho, to do a lot of press work and arrangements for TVs, and he worked, he worked most conscientiously. I'm sure he earned a passport to heaven the way he did work. And there was, and my role in publicity, I've always had a very real interest in spreading beloved Baba's message of love and truth. Of course, not as an example, no, just to get other people to talk about it. And I had, at that time, was finishing my nursing degree, and I was babysitting for a wonderful Indian family. And the husband worked in the United Nations, and the wife was a dancer. I was working as this babysitter and going to school, and this was this Indian family that I thought, well, they surely would want to meet a master. And what did I do wrong then? This, the Banumati, the dancer and the mother and all, the baby was adorable. I got, I think, 50 cents an hour. That's the truth. That was 1950. Well, 50s. Yeah, it was around 1954 when it started, and she said that she couldn't, it wouldn't be easy for her to get away, or for her husband, that she definitely would like me to ask Dr. Krishnaya. Dr. Krishnaya was a family friend who worked in the United Nations as a film taker. Actually, he was the newscaster from America at the UN to India. And Dr. Krishnaya was, when I met him, at first seemed astonished. Why, as a Westerner, you're interested in the Eastern masters? It was, for him, he makes some statement about it. I think Phyllis took it down at one time. But he said, yes, and I'll try to do a little documentary. And then I said, do you have a photographer maybe that would like to come? And he named Mr. Rosenthal, who was the main photographer at the United Nations, and they came. And as a result, what we have this Hotel del Monaco film, and that was because of Dr. Krishnaya. As a result of that, the man who took all these photographs, they're some of our prize photographs. And it was Hermes, Lawrence Ryder, who eventually got the direction from me just how to get a hold of them. So that was something that enabled Dr. Krishnaya to meet Baba, because he'd never even heard of Baba. And that happens. There was another gentleman who, when he lived in India, he lived right near Baba, and he never could meet him. And then he came on a visit to this country, and in that way he met him. But when I finally, and there was Baba, after 52, you see, in 52, as I say, that was our real honeymoon period. And in 56, just as Baba had predicted to all of us, the more people that hear about the advent of the Avatar, the more you guys are going to be in the background. So that is, of course, what I perceive, that it no longer was, Baba really looking to give us a lot of personal awareness of the relationship, but we were there. Now, I brought, because Baba, I had the conviction by this time, because of the events in my life, and because the transformation that Baba brought about in me, to the extent where up to then, I would say when I first came to Baba, I had no real direction, no real direction. I was very, very confused. I heard of Baba during a desperate time of search during the Second World War. And so this interlude between 1952 and 56, when I saw Bob again, it was as if, what can I do to help, to work for you and to love you. My capacities were sort of like practical ones, I would say. It was Baba who made me see that I could be a nurse, for example. When I first met Baba, I was 25, and that's in 52. Actually heard of him in 44, but met him for the first time in 52. And at that time, I had, really needed to be given some kind of role as to who I am. I think, isn't that what we all need to find out, just who we are and what are we doing here? And this then is exactly what Baba has done all during this period of time between my 52 experience, 56. So I had brought like a little, I had met people I said, oh, you must meet Meher Baba, and there are some very funny stories connected with that. For example, there was a lady in the university, Baba had told me to finish some studies I was doing, and this lady was teaching all about avatars. She was the curator of the Eastern Asiatic collection. She had a class on avatars and Eastern thought, and she knew Jean Adriel, and she had some little background. And in fact, I invited her to my home, and Dr. Marguerite Bloch was her name, and she came. And when it came to the time when Baba, was here in July of 56, I said, Dr. Bloch, aren't you coming to meet him? And she said, oh, but I have all these papers to correct. And that was a typical thing. And another typical thing was Mr. Mason. I don't know if any of you, I don't know if Billy remembers. There was a well-known astrologer, Mr. Mason. Yeah, he had drawn up a horoscope of Baba, and it was just a perfect horoscope of what is? I didn't hear you.
She has the horoscope with her.
Oh, she has the horoscope with her.
I also had the big Rusanita.
Yeah, and so there again was somebody who whose mind was going very fast, and who recognized that this definitely is a rare soul who could have a transforming effect universally, and he said all of that verbally, intellectually, and we invited him, and he again, like Dr. Bloch, they were blocked out somehow. But Baba just couldn't remove that veil. He never showed. But, and Phyllis, we found that a lot of people that we thought we had prepped them, and they were just right for Baba. The beloved Baba didn't think so. But on the other hand, the kind of compassion and love that Baba has, of course, is absolutely unpredictable. So that who you might think is just one may not be. But then Baba finds knows who's there, that one in the crowd, He always works with individuals. And Baba said, even if I found one soul, it would have been worth my trip around the globe. Well, and from, of course, now I'm talking about the Hotel Del Monaco. this also was an opportunity for, I had been asked to help care for a number of Baba's close women, like Nadine Tolstoy, Norina Machiavelli, and also Mildred Kyle. Mildred Kyle's remains are also up there on Meherabad Hill, where the tombs are, and because she's very dear to Baba. And I was asked to take care of her in St. Petersburg, Florida. And when I was there with Mildred, there were occasions where we had meetings, and there was one lady, Louise Overkirk, doesn't matter what her name is, and she said, I have a friend in New York that really should be hearing about Baba. And that, she said, when you go back, because I was there just for a few months, I would like to bring him to you, your group. And therefore, what happened was, I went back, and Mildred came, and she brought Dr. Kenmore. Now, Dr. Kenmore was very dear to Baba. Eventually, Dr. Kenmore wanted to help Baba during his, when he had his accidents, as you know, and his suffering. As he said, he is crucified every minute. But these two major accidents were especially for the contemporary humanity and posterity. So he brought, Dr. Kenmore said he would like to help Bob. Bob eventually let him come to India. Some of you know that story, don't you? Mm-hmm. So he is always dealing with a very absolute cross-section of humanity. All nationalities, all religions that we met, traveling with Baba, of course, it's just that you can't worry, at least I couldn't. I really felt that Baba's transforming of my whole essential personality was happening all the time, because that is his work, is to really give you an awareness and a real grip on just who you are. I would say that all the nationalities, all the different religions, all the different personalities that we were exposed to was about the best education anybody could have. Because Baba, the art of right adjustment is the key to happiness, and that's what Baba allows you to do. I mean, you're constantly in a situation where you have to make a good adjustment. Baba gave us many, I could tell you, many personal instances where Baba gave us opportunities to do things for him, and of course that allows you. What does that do? It just makes you see that nothing is real save God, and everything you do, you want to do for that which is most real and most precious to you. And so we did lots of things for Baba. We also, you'll hear another story about making a jacket for Baba. We made I asked Baba, could we make you a jacket? And he said yes. And of course, I didn't know very much about seamstressing, but we had in our group, that was the nice thing about this, though, that it was a joint group project. And so that it wasn't just Phyllis and myself alone. We entailed the Miriam Gregoire and Mary Andriani, and different people in the group. I don't know, did you help, Billy, in the making of that jacket for Baba? There was strictly, I think, the New York, well...
No, the jacket the only jacket I knew about was the one that Tex made.
What?
The only jacket I knew about was the one that Tex made.
No, I say, we're going to hear that story.
Yeah.
But there is this other jacket that we made as a group. What he did, he undertook himself, which is a mighty undertaking. But what we did, like I did a pocket, and in the meantime I did a handkerchief, and other people had other parts of it to do. But I remember Erich coming down when I asked one day, I was with Phyllis, and I said, let's ask about the jacket. She said, fine. So we went ahead and did. And Erich said the next day, you want to make a jacket, but where's your pattern? So they were very thoughtful, constantly, never forgetting. The work of Bob's disciples is out of this world. So what he did was, he said, come and get a sample jacket. Well, of course, that's what we did. In the meantime, we took a swatch of it to get the right material, the color. The color is very important. And then the material itself, the jacket pattern, we just got a lady who can cut patterns. I think that was either Mary Andriani or Miriam. But that was eventually we made it. It was a pink jacket. The material was that shade of pink that Baba enjoyed wearing. Well, just as we were coming, it's just like when we came today with Elliot and Donna Carpelis, I remarked that it really takes a very keen, aware, and practiced driver, that hairpin road. And as we were going up, I think we followed Baba's car. We thought this really is a challenging drive. And when we got here, of course, Agnes was in her glory at that time. She was in very good health, as a matter of fact, and it was wonderful. This is, as Baba said, and as being mentioned, Baba said, I have been here before. And you could feel the quality of this is really very charged. You all feel, I'm sure, that you would love to stay here. You would just want to stay here always. And being with Baba here was a tremendous thing. And he also said that this dog of Agnes's that followed him around and became so, followed Baba. And he said that's because he's, so much loved by all of you and all, and is such a loving preacher too. He will come back. He will come back as a human being. And one of the ladies in New York that brought Bob a gift was Enid Korf. She was cultivating chinchillas. Do you remember that, Billy? Chinchilla, Enid Korf. And she brought this chinchilla to Baba, and Baba said, it will come back as a human being. Because that was it. People, they bring what they can to Baba in order to get his compassionate direction. Yes, actually, this did happen in 1950. See, a lot of these things happened in Myrtle Beach. And so Baba came then, and he said that Mehera, his Mehera, had given him a number of gifts for those of us who'd been, writing and in touch with the Mandali for so many years. And he said, but for the life of him, although he can set the course of the planets and the cosmic system, he can't remember who Mehera designated for any of these gifts. So he said, pick out what you like. And so I picked out a bracelet, which it looks like it's a Peruvian bracelet, and it's very precious, And Baba gave, that's all he does is give. He says, I am love, all I can give is love. The J-Baba.
Yeah.